Hello there. This is Gulak Budai. Guess this would be the first Black Jester Matters. And usually I do these things because, well, an issue comes up. And, an issue comes up every so often. Just bring it up. No, not impeachment. But that was kind of funny. I'll get into that some other time, I guess. But I've typed enough about it anyway. This is a particular thing of something I guess I grew up learning. See, I'm not a person who goes. I'm a person who had a very unorthodox childhood, having grown up in the film business, to some degree TV business as well, from Toronto to BC and moving across the country. My father's an actor as well. Both me and my father were doing it at the same time for a while, and I did different things in the industry after that, and in between actually, because I hit the awkward years, and well, if you just want to check how complicated things are, check that police brutality video I did way back, or not just video, audio. Now, if you're hearing this, you're probably not hearing. If you're hearing this on Podbean or well, if you're hearing this on anywhere but locals or Minds Plus, or watching, and then you're probably watching this later than it's been published initially. It's just best in my interest having the locals and Minds Plus, possibly. I don't know. Maybe people will forget this stuff happened, but it's going to happen to somebody else. I'm talking about these public firings and non-resignings and cancellations, as they call it, which are to some degree, this has a lot more to do with the long-form information about things I've learned over the years in the film business and things like that, and being a kid listening to stuff and paying attention. I mean, in the 80s, up to the now, nothing's terribly changed, aside from maybe the photo size and type of color, whether it's color or black and white on the photo. I don't even know why they bother with that. You might as well just get might as well get photographs off their social media, get their opinions off there 10 years back. They might as well go and do that. But that notwithstanding, there's something rather important. Now, it's plausible that people do get fired for their opinions and stuff like that, and maybe it's easier for people to fire them because of that. Maybe because, if your favorite candidates have a guy who will show up to a fundraiser, but that's also part of a reason that could end up being not necessarily the opinions you hold or the party you support, or no party, all party, by the party, third party. A lot of business is driven. A lot of business is driven by things like parties and social associations that exist extracurricular, and even to some degree, there are people who will have, especially on a higher level, like corporate level, or known to fire people because they didn't show up to their kid's birthday present party, that sort of thing. It's the sort of thing you hear about. And if you ever want an education on these things, you have a good ear and you you sit at set listening. Uh, People talk about a lot of things: higher ups, lower downs. Oddly enough, the least you thing you hear less about on a set is politics. You'd more likely hear the brass tacks. Now, set wise, I mean, people are probably more likely to be punished for stuff that affects the set, affects work, and whoever looks the most to the reason for that. Like you're people show up drunk a lot and stuff like that. And that it's just a fact. I mean, who needs that sort of thing? Especially, but if it's like set-related, it's more likely lower down. If it's corporate, it's likely some petty bullshit like an EP didn't have someone at their birthday party, or someone wouldn't tolerate a press release in their name saying they're going to be in a relationship with another person. And that could also exist too. Someone could be fired because either they didn't go to a specific party. We range from a kid's birthday party to a fundraiser to any type of bullshit, kiss-ass bullshit that they expect you to be there at times. Um, or they figure a relationship announced would be a good publicity thing. And if you don't agree to it, it becomes a problem. That's a very wide angle, isn't it? Uh, so we have that's more plausible reasons than the public explanation that people are allowed to believe and are led to believe, or sometimes maybe on the upper level it could be about politics too. But more likely, it's usually the politics of regular interaction and just the and the inability to, I guess, offer the publicity they want. I mean, a political opinion isn't necessarily bad publicity, especially if it's rather. Um, I mean, I don't know why liberty money stuff would be a problem for a business like that. I mean, I suppose some degree for tax, if they feel they want their specific business to be unsuccessful, and they for other tax reasons, or maybe an investment scam like The Producers, that which is a movie about a scam. Check it out, Zero Mostel. It's a very good one, but it's plausible they would pull that sort of thing off, which kind of makes it funny. But I mean, tax, but you know, it could be like they're heading into bad tax years too, and they want some negative fallback on their projects and lose some money. It's always a plausibility. I mean, I'm guessing Warner Brothers seriously wants to lose money. Uh, but largely, I mean, things like this would probably definitely usually fall on things like um, not being a party girl or guy, or not being not being more chummy. It could be. I always said that I went into politics because I found less politics in the politics business than the film business. Um, it's a good joke, but the politics in the film business is kind of weird because it's kind of like, you know, people brown nosing, people expect to be brown nosed, and people um, having strange notions of using fake or real private lives as real lives, and trying to create a narrative around them that they want to market, and if that goes against the grain, they might actually fire someone for that. But you know, going against not necessarily a political narrative as we know in elections, but a political narrative that exists in their mind as to the sort of character they want the actor to be in real life, rather than, you know, there are certain lies they expect people might. Some people expect some people to live in a business of marketing, on the marketing aspect. So it's that possibility, and it's also possible, you know, as I said, you could miss the wrong parties and piss the wrong people off that way. I'm not saying it's right. It's certainly I mean, it's certainly petty, but I mean that's probably why they'd probably try to let people believe that it's political, because it's kind of a little deeper. If it's political, I mean, it's at least something people can wrap their heads around. I mean, I don't know. There are a lot of insecure people out there too. I mean, that think, well, this guy didn't do this for me, so maybe that would be still relatable. Um, but that's what. Yeah, I'm talking about the Carano thing in a way, but there's a lot of these things happening. Uh, That's not the only thing where it's happening. It's been happening a long time, and and it's terrible if you don't have a pay-to-play contract or something like that. But it's the other thing too is like someone does have an established relationship, like a girlfriend, and this is kind of, and they take the girlfriend to work, and the girlfriend's not very liked, and sometimes they vouch for this person too, and they're not very liked, and that can be completely fired. Uh, Case in point, my father on Darksiders, or Darkstalkers, yeah, Darkstalkers. He was playing Anakaris, the mummy, on the first episode, and he brought his girlfriend. She, and she's a piece of work, I'll tell you that. Well, she was a piece of work. She's no longer his girlfriend anymore. But that was a lasting scar. It pissed off Susan Blue, or Sue Blue, and his chance of ever being a voice actor again was ruined. And that also pissed off a few other people too. In fact, to the point when in the more forgiving live action world, my father was told explicitly not to bring that woman by an casting director. But I can get into the specifics of why that is. But some people who've been seen with a person can also drop your name later and also screw you too. That's happened. I'm sure it happens a few times. And that's an unfortunate thing. Now, the reason I do this is primarily because, well, this is something I know rather intimately. I mean, I've had some blockades in my career, not just the awkward age, but the police brutality thing and a lot of other things. And in fact, I had to throw out a bunch of headshots too. And then the standard change and replacing them, that's a lot. That's a lot of pain in the ass, especially the earth. Anyway. Not making this personal about me though, just the fact that I know something about this because I've been listening to it all my life. I've been hearing it all my life. And certain factors do not change. A certain type of person gets in this business and they have these kind of ways about them that lead to certain type of politics and certain type of business politics, and there are some other random elements that also exist, like girlfriends get brought over and get vouched for sometimes, and sometimes they even drop your name later after relationships are over. Girlfriends they want the actor to have that they don't want to have, at least on paper, as a publicity thing. And just in general, I just want people to be led down the line by some of these YouTubers who don't know shit, even if they just wiped. And a lot of them don't, and they focus on all the cultural issues, and they assume everything is from their own political standpoint, which is usually what commentators on YouTube tend to know. It's their own political stuff. But what they call the legacy media was more where I came from. And I know something about that. So I think it's probably my duty to make things clear. I mean, some of them don't shit. I mean, they'll say I got a insider tells me this, that. Yeah, because they also know you don't know anything. They could tell you anything. It doesn't make them a good source. So, I don't want to cast shade on any particular person, but at least at this point, I mean, it's not a YouTube comment, it's not a response video. I'm just trying to make sure that there's something that I can share and understand. And since I mentioned awkward age, and I know Cuties has passed by all of this time, I'm going to reiterate this. I mentioned the awkward age because, and that's how I know that those girls shouldn't have been working on that set. They usually it's usually not protocol. It's just a little weird. Even for the business that some people think are filled with pedos. I mean, I gotta tell you, I was a kid on set and no one touched me. And they didn't even, and it was a lot more awkward for my father to go threatening people. But, well, he probably would have killed somebody. But, no one knew. I mean, as early as, Christ. Really early. There was the commercial I did, and a horrible fruit cup that was. My father was a photographer for that. Did the videography for that. But I've never been touched on a set, and it's kind of like I was an altar boy too. Never happened. That's the thing. It doesn't never happen. I'm sure the pedos like everywhere else in the world, but to tell you the truth, I saw lots. Where there were scenes and sets where there were multiple kids, at a young age. You'd probably pick up on that. Probably notice it. Especially someone like me. Those are really good about sneaking around. But you can't be on every single one either. The Netflix stuff certainly has some obvious problems. That's a really unique hotbed. But It's largely because some things are specifically child-based, like specifically meant for children, and have specifically uh, a teeny bopper type aspect to them, and that attracts that sort of person, and that sort of person even pitches that sort of show. Most of the Nickelodeon lineup that isn't animated. Uh, that's it doesn't necessarily refer to everything. I mean, I know it must feel good to think that it's just all your evil villains from Hollywood doing it, but I mean, it's uh, for all the shady stuff in it. It was not a bad thing, business, and the worst experience I got was getting stalked by somebody on a set, and that's part of the reason I kind of had trouble reacclimating to the business too. And maybe it's because they let in some. Maybe they started letting in and tolerating more unprofessionalism, and maybe they gave too many people second chances. That's the thing. It's a highly forgiving business outside of voiceover acting. It's possibly too. It's probably too forgiving in many ways, and it's important to understand that side of things. May not be what you want to hear. I mean, it might be better to think that it's. And this is daily caller stuff. I worry about. I mean, you got people on the left who have their biases in Hollywood, but I mean, it's a little more blatant when you're a commentator company, right? And it's like, I would say it's like Rush Limbaugh producing films, but Limbaugh has comedy chops, and he was in a Drew Carey episode, and so he was funny in the '90s. Holy crap, he was very funny. I mean, there are a lot of people stuck up their ass about stuff, but I don't know. I always remembered a very cool business, generally speaking. I mean, like I said, there are those things. Some people get hooked up. Usually it's on the money side of things, though. And of course, the money side of things is important, like keeping investors happy and all that. Of course, that has its dark sides, too, right? That's a lot better than keeping government happy because they're investing in your film, I guess. Well, not necessarily. Well, it's better, I guess. I mean, there's more. I mean, the government owns the prisons. I mean, so if they ask too much of you for an investment, I mean, they're not going to jail, not easily anyway. It'll be a lot easier to put Weinstein in jail than Trudeau or any of those people. I mentioned Trudeau because I think the biggest, most vile offender when it comes to that censorship they call arts funding and film funding and all that other stuff is in Canada, I think. But that's just me, I guess. I don't know. Might be Georgia, actually. The state of Georgia seems to like to spend other people's money on by force on films too, to set up well, which is probably what screwed them in the election too. It probably got dragged too many actors there to be to vote Democrat. But yeah, I mean that's so. Yeah, I mean I don't really see, unless it's some real petty. There has to be a bunch of things involved. It's foolish to assume that there is a simple answer to why someone gets canned in this business. I mean, yeah, they might feel better about doing it because of the political bias than if they did it someone equal to it. But it's not always that way. Yeah, I'll cut it off. Just repeat myself too much. Have a good night, morning, whatever.